It's now my pleasure to introduce our main speaker, Gemma.
Hi, my name is Gemma and I'm an alcoholic. I'm very happy to be here. My sobriety date is July 5th, 1996. I also got sober when I was 19 and I've stayed. I'll just throw in I'm 48 just so you're not distracted by math. And my sponsor's name is Sandra B., and I am current with her. So those are and my home group is, oh my gosh, I always forget the name, and I named it, so it's so embarrassing. Sunlight of the Spirit. I got it. Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. in Studio City. So, and I went there this morning. So we're all caught up. I love the name of this meeting. Scott, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. Because I believe we are not a glum lot is such an important message. Because when I thought about getting sober at 19, I just was like, well, why don't you pass the basket and I'll put in $1 and all the fun I was ever going to have, because my life is over. And I'm not going to be who I wanted to be, and I'm not going to experience the things I want to experience. And it's just going to be so boring. And I'm going to be so boring, because I was the life of the party, I thought. I was the mess of the party. And it is my experience that I have found such joy, such good friends, that when I laugh with people in sobriety now, they're laughing with me, not at me, which is key. And just just a level of, joy that I never thought was possible. That being said, this morning when I was thinking about coming to speak here, I was like, I'm such a glum lot. I have been in a place lately of sadness. And so I'm going to just share generally where I'm at and what I'm doing about it, and then I'll get into my story. I am someone who is a rule follower, and I think as long as I do certain things, then certain things will happen, that it will work out as long as I just do the things I'm supposed to do. 5 years ago, my life was in a really different place, my career was headed a certain way. I was married. We have our son with us, and we had just bought a little cabin that I assumed we would always be in our family and give to our son. And then I don't know, the pandemic happened, and it was I went into it one way with one picture of what my life looked like, and I came out of that time in a totally different place where that job wasn't that job, that husband wasn't my husband, and all of those things changed. There's heavy head nodding happening. I guess I'm not the only one who had a pandemic separation, but and then lately, there were some things where that house that I thought I would give to my son, I ended up selling. And, and then the next day, this was last month, and the next day I found out that the thing that, a work thing that I really thought was going to happen really wasn't. And then the next day, my sponsee passed away from cancer. And it just was left me with a little what is happening? And in the past, though, where I would go to did I just get dropped? I know that I haven't been. I'm just in a place of disappointment and things not working out the way I thought they would. And that's because like I have like a certain GPS, I just think like I have it all like wide, and I know, I'm going to turn here, and then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to turn there. And then all of a sudden, like, it wasn't working out the way I thought it was going to. And it's funny, it's like I used to have like a while ago, I had a GPS where it was a computerized voice, but I swear she had an attitude. And like, if I made a wrong turn, I swear she was mad at me, right? I am very sensitive, but there was like a hint of like attitude in this voice where it was like, recalculating. Like, I could just sort of hear her disappointment. And so like lately I just sort of feel like I hear recalculating. Like, we have to figure out what the route is now from where I am, and I don't get to widen it way out and see all the turns in advance. It's like I don't know. I just know what's right in front of me. I'm real close in on what's happening. And it's like the next right indicated action. It's the next thing that I think is the next thing I do. And there's a bunch of really scary things that I'm having to deal with and face. And someone once said, like, if you're driving in fog, is it you don't have your headlights on, or you do, but you can only see 2 feet in front of you, but you can get across the country that way by just going 2 feet at a time. And so in my life, I tend to butcher AA stories, so if I mess that one up, I'm sorry, but it's something like that, and I think that's true. But if not, just adjust it to be accurate. But so I'm just going, being able to see the 2 feet in front of me, and I also am very aware that there are a lot of people in LA, and maybe some of them are in this room, who have just lost a whole lot more than I have, and have had, and so I feel heavy, and I have felt a little glum. But the beauty of how I feel today is it's not where I live or who I am. It's like weather, and it can pass. It used to be, if you asked me how I was, I would say, I'm in a really bad place. And it's like, oh, where's that located? Like, it was like, I'm just in a really bad place. And it's like, well, today I can have sadness, but there is a difference, first of all, between how I'm doing and how I'm feeling. So I tend to focus more on how I'm doing, what I'm doing, than how I'm feeling. Because there's times in my life that I have not been doing the right thing and feeling great. And there are times that I have been doing the right thing and feeling terrible. And I would say right now, I'm having, there's a lot that I'm not doing. And there's also a difference between pain and suffering in my feeling, right? So when I'm doing some stuff that's really hard, I'm in pain, right? But that's not the same as suffering. There's like a healing pain and a suffering pain, I had a few years ago, I hurt my ankle. I would like to say like, oh, it was a long time injury from lots of working out, but I played hockey with my son for 90 seconds and sprained my ankle in 3 places, not even on ice, like in our driveway. And when I did that, I would go to the doctor, and there's a thing that they do, and it's like called a drawer test, and they check the strength of your ankle, and my ankle was a mess, and it was really bad, and the doctor, before he examined me, was like, are you okay? And I'm like, it's not that bad. And then he checked it. He's like, you're not having any problems with this ankle? Like, it's barely attached to your leg. And I was like, well, I mean, like, yeah, like if I'm going upstairs, like I don't lead with my left foot because I'm gonna, lose my balance. And sometimes I do walk into walls, and like I lose my balance and I'll just hit a wall, and it kind of hurts all the time. And he's like, but you think that's not that bad? And I was like, yeah, I also had that experience at the dentist where he was like, does anything, he checked my mouth and he was like, he said, are you having any problems? And I said, no. And he's like, I can't believe you're not having problems when you chew on your right side. And I was like, oh, I don't chew on my right side. So like, what that has to do with alcoholism is, as an alcoholic, like if something is painful, like I've heard, like alcoholics get into a rut and we decorate, and or I just accept, like, this is how it is, this is how, like, I don't chew on that side, and I don't go upstairs leading with my left leg. And that is what it was like for me when I was drinking, which is, I was 19 years old, and if you asked me, I would tell you my drinking wasn't that bad. And I've been here for 28 years, and I've heard a lot of stories that, almost all the stories that I've heard have been a lot worse than mine. I have a lot of yets in my story. I have a lot of things that I didn't do. I have a lot of embarrassment about my story. And it just, in terms of like, I mean, I barely drank in bars because it wasn't legal. Like, my idea of like, coming home and taking the edge off was being 9 years old, feeling so on the outside of like everybody that I'd come home and I would like take a sip of vanilla extract, and like, or NyQuil, or the things that were available in a sober home. You got to find alcohol in the cracks when your dad's sober. And, but I did. And for me, sometimes the solution, when something is not that bad, right, the solution is so much worse. Having to get ankle surgery meant I had to stop down. It wasn't just, a little inconvenient. It was incredibly inconvenient for a while, so that I could totally stop, so I could change, so they could fix what was wrong. And then it felt so dramatic, like a surgery, but but it was what I needed. And then the pain that I felt after that surgery was healing pain, but the pain that I felt every day before that surgery was suffering pain. Just side note, like in December, in the middle of all this, I stepped into like a Gemma's foot-sized hole and I re-injured it exactly where it hurt, and but my tendency is like, I just pretend it isn't happening, and made a doctor's appointment and just walked on it for 2 weeks or whatever, and I'm in heels today, so I'm not always quick to go to the solution. It's just sort of like, pretend it's fine. I don't think I understand what act better than you feel means, but I am working with a doctor and I'm going to do physical therapy. But the point being, I don't remember, but let's see. I'll get us there. So getting sober felt like very dramatic solution to the problem I was having, to like the nightlife of a middle schooler. To then have to come to meetings for 28 years feels like overkill, And, but it is, it is exactly what I needed. And when I got sober, everything got worse. I'm sorry if you're new, hang in there. Don't go to the bathroom yet, I'll tell you. It did eventually get better, but immediately, like, it fell apart because alcohol was my solution, and I didn't have that solution anymore. And because I came into the meetings and I would compare my story to your story, and your story was worse, I didn't feel like I belonged here. So I didn't feel like I belonged out there, and I would come in here and I didn't feel like I had earned my seat. And because I didn't feel like I really had the same problem you had, I didn't feel the need to like pursue the solution the way you guys were pursuing the solution. There was a saying in New York where people would say like, my disease is out there doing push-ups. You know, I was like, I mean, maybe my disease does yoga. I don't know, but it just didn't feel like as dramatic. And, but meanwhile, also, I will tell you two things. One is, I don't know who originally said this. I feel like maybe it was, I don't want to quote the wrong person, but it's Scott Redmond who said like that I catch alcoholism in Alcoholics Anonymous. In hearing your stories, you know, I got identification finally, and I was able to hear my story and your story and know that I had that. I also know in the big book it talks about no matter how far down we've down the scale we've gone, we're able to help other people. And so there are other people that I've been able to help who feel like they don't have the story that is the thing that is, you know, and I can say, you know, me neither, and I stayed. And I also know that my idea of not that bad is kind of bad, you know? And if I compare what my life was like when I was drinking and who I was and the things that I did to the way I live my life today, like there's no way I want, you know, I get to live a life of dignity and respect today. And, you know, and I kind of love that, you know? I want to also say that when I'm going through something, you know, it's pain can be an indicator of like that there's something I'm not doing, right? It's sort of like if you were to pull your hand back at some point, there's so much pain that you don't do that anymore. And that's a good thing. So it's like today I just was like, I am not in a great place. And so the first thing I do is like, what am I not doing? You know, and I'll tell you, you know, I got into a relationship 6 months ago, which is so fun, and I'm having such a great time. And I would rather hang out with her than, you know, do morning meditation or, you know, the things that I used to do first thing in the morning. It's sort of kind of a little bit fallen apart. My morning, you know, the birthday person who listed all the things she did, I was like, I used to do those things 6 months ago. And, you know, I have in an inconsistent way along the lines, but I haven't. And so then that takes a toll. You know, there's a speaker who passed away, her name's Carrie White, and she used to say, there's no inclement weather, only inappropriate dress. And so what I think of like when I do my morning stuff, it's like I'm going out into the weather that might be cold, and every tool that I do in the morning is like, okay, now I'm putting on my pants and my thermal and my coat and my hat and my sock, you know, like that's what prayers, meditation, you know, and those things do for me is it helps me. And if not, I'm just going into into a blizzard, you know, in the shorts and a tank top and being like, why am I cold? You know? And so that's a little bit of what's going on is I'm not doing those things that really help me to face life on life's terms. And life on life's terms, like I always thought that was negative, but like life's terms can be positive, and that can be hard too. I'm someone who like I can get a gift from God and use it as a bat with which to beat myself, you know? Like, oh, I got a new job. I don't deserve it. You know, they're going to fire me. It's going to find, you know, it's like, and so the other thing I know about my experience is I know that like there's nothing that there's no problem I have that drinking would make better. And I'll even say like something happened the other day and that thought, you know, like, oh, I want to drink for a second passed my head. And I haven't had that thought in a very long time. And the thing that I know about that thought is when I had 4.5 years, I called my sponsor and I said, I want to drink. And she said, where are you? And I said, I'm at the International AA Convention, which was true. And then she said something really surprising. She was like, what are you going to have? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, where are you going to get it? And I said, I don't know. And she said, oh, well, I don't think you want to drink. I think you want to feel better. And that is, always the case. So the other day when I had shame about something and I had this thought of like, I want to drink, I realized like, oh, I want to feel better. It's not that I want to drink. It's just that my alcoholic head connects drinking with feeling better, even though I have so much evidence that drinking may have made me feel better for a second, but always brought me to a place where I felt so much worse. And so the other thing is, I can sometimes fall out of my meeting routine, like I just take it one day at a time. I'm like, oh, I missed my Tuesday. And then the next day something happens. I was like, oh, I missed my Wednesday. I just missed that one meeting and I missed this one meeting. And I'm not looking at the whole thing of like, well, that means I only went to 2 meetings this week. Or I went to a meeting online. I also, during that meeting, had my camera off and reorganized my kitchen cabinet. And, like I always know when I'm on a Zoom, I always think I'm so good at this that I cannot pay attention for a minute and I'll still absorb everything, And I'm just going to check something on Amazon for 1 second. Like, cut to 10 minutes later, I have a cart full, whatever, and then the sharing happens. And I think I heard the whole person's talk. And then the sharing happens, and someone's like, I love the part about the chipmunk. And I'm like, what chipmunk? I don't remember anything. And they're like quoting stuff, and I don't remember. So it's like, sometimes I can think about my program rather than do it. I can think, now would be a good time to pray. Now would be a great time to meditate. Now would be a good time to go to a meeting. Now would be a good time to call my sponsor. But I don't do the things I'm thinking about, and then I get a different result. And so that's kind of a little bit about sort of a little where I am. And I will also say my friend Joel is here. He moved up to Santa Barbara. We used to live nearby each other. We met at an online meeting. And at the time, I had just left my marriage, and I was the one who worked, and my husband took care of everything else, like cooking and the house and all that. And I was on my own, and I was like, I think I have to go back to my marriage because I'm so hungry. And I didn't know how to cook for myself. I didn't know, and so I didn't know Joel at all. And he said, would you like to come over and my wife and I will cook for you? And one of the things that I know about Alcoholics Anonymous is I don't have to do anything on my own. I don't have to do anything on my own. And I don't have to face anything alone. And that was not the case for me for a really long time. I did everything on my own. And my drinking was the thing that it talks about in the book about having an allergy of the body and an obsession of the mind, and that was what my, and once I started, I couldn't stop. And I remember that anything that I thought was a gift in my life, when I'm in my addiction, then becomes an annoyance because it becomes in the way of drinking the way I want to. And that can be loved ones, and that can be family, and that can be, it can be school, it could be the job, whatever it is. It becomes the thing that gets in my way of drinking the way I want to. And, when I got sober, I remember going to a meeting, my first meeting, and someone said to me, you never have to drink again. And I was like, does she think that's good news? Because it didn't feel like good news. It didn't feel like good news. And if you are new and you are, welcome. If you're new, welcome. And if you're having a hard time feeling like you fit in here or not knowing if you do, I just invite you to stay. I just invite you to stay. Because in my experience, it absolutely, absolutely gets better. And for me, when I came in, I had so much pain. I had so much pain when I got here. And the solutions that I felt like people gave me were like I would be crying all the time and people would be like, be the greeter, and I was like, I don't think you understand what's happening. I was so sad and so lonely, and thought I would never be in a relationship. And people were like, do step work. And it just felt like these tiny solutions were never going to take care of the depth of sadness that I had. Because one of the problems that I had was I hated myself. I hated myself. And I put myself in sobriety. I put myself in such out there, but then also in sobriety in such dangerous situations. I didn't have my own back. I didn't take care of myself. And there's really no relationship for me that I've been in that is as abusive as the one that I've had with myself. There's no one in my life that talks to me the way I talk to me. There's no one who, in my case. And so that sort of had to change. And I remember during the pandemic, I was making breakfast for my son, and I remember I did a soft-boiled egg, and I remember taking off the shell, and when his dad did it, the shell would just magically come off the egg in one whole beautiful piece. And when I did it, it was 5,000 tiny pieces that each ripped the flesh off the egg, revealing that it was very overdone and purple in the middle. And it just when I was done, and it took forever, it just looked like a brain, And I remember having the thought and I'm not, I just had the thought kill yourself, and that's, and it's because that's where my head goes, is this darkness of I am not, and it's trivial, but for in my mind, it's not. I'm not who I want to be, and my, kid deserves better, And I went to a meeting. It was an online meeting, and we were new. It was the first week or so of online meetings. And I remember sharing about this. And I was so in my feelings, And the chat filled with recipes on how to make an egg, And I was like, why are you giving me solutions? I'm sad. And the thing I got from that was the phrase, and I don't know who had said it to me, but I made a mistake. I'm not a mistake. Because when I make a mistake, I feel like I am a mistake. I am a waste of space. I shouldn't be here, Instead of just, I made a mistake, which is the grace I give my kid if he makes a mistake, but I don't give it to myself. If I made a mistake, I'm not a mistake. And something happened that day where I started to treat myself like I would treat my kid, of trying not to go to these really dark places and having a little emotional sobriety of just sort of narrating to myself, and meditation, which I was doing at the time, helped with that, of just sort of taking a deep breath, putting my hand on my heart, and talking myself through the things that I was going through, of like, okay, you made a mistake, or like if I'm going through something, it's like, okay, you're new to this job and you're scared, or just gently saying, as opposed to like my thoughts that ravage me of like, you don't deserve to be here. Everyone knows you're a fraud. It's just okay, you're just a little afraid. This is your first day. And, a lot of these things that I go through, I used to talk a lot about alcoholic thinking, which I do believe in, but I think a lot of this stuff is the human condition. I don't think it's only alcoholics that are scared. It's not only alcoholics that feel bad about themselves, right? But where my alcoholic thinking comes into play, I think, is my alcoholic solutions, which are, I had a bad day on Thursday, and my thought is, with 28 years of sobriety, like, oh, I think of drinking, or I can't make breakfast, I should kill myself. That's where the problem is. A little bit less human condition, more alcoholic solutions. And when I left my marriage, and when Joel and his lovely wife were feeding me, I realized that I needed to start cooking. And what I started to do is I was going to make an egg, and I thought about that chat from 5 years ago and all the solutions, and I was like, let me look into what some of these suggestions are, and I go online, and there were these suggestions like set a timer, do an ice bath, take the shell off under running water, And of course, I tried all the solutions on my first egg, and I got a different result, And now, for the most part, when I make a soft-boiled egg, the shell comes off like this. And that's not because I was broken, it's because I didn't know how to do it. No one taught me. Or maybe they did, but I wasn't paying attention. And so when I show up for life in sobriety, it's like I don't always know how to do things. And I had lovely parents. They did teach me a lot of stuff. I might not have been paying attention, but you guys re-raised me. You re-raised me in Alcoholics Anonymous to do things differently. And so instead of taking myself out and, killing myself or drinking over my problems, I get to bring them here. I get to share them with other people. I get to seek people who have experience in the areas in which I'm struggling, whether it be eggs or divorce, is whatever. It's all here. We've all done it. This guy used to say to me, well, he's shared it to everyone, but I thought it was to me, but if there's a word for it, it's because someone else has done it before you, And so I get to come here and get your solutions. And when I try something differently, I get a different result. And so I bring my problems here, and I don't have answers. I have solutions. I have the things that I know that work. Coming to meetings, having a morning routine, having a connection with a higher power, not making my relationship my higher power, like all of these things, right? And so that serves me, when I was new and today, that is the same. And, I don't think the first time I did like my fourth and fifth step, I had it I was doing my defects of character, and I had a thesaurus. And so I had all of these defects of character. I had so many. I had 100 different things. And I personally don't think I have 100 defects. I think I have 16. But I do them in 100 different places. And so the things that I do in my cooking are the same defects that show up in my relationship. Magical thinking, procrastination, not asking for help, assuming someone else is going to, whatever it is, whatever those, defects are. It's the same thing that shows up in my work. It's the same thing that shows up in my parenting, it's like, and so there's that saying, polish over here, shine over there. It's like, if I just work on something small, like, work on my ability to cook and put food on the table, and have I have a different experience in my relationships, because it's like, oh, let me look into what the solution on that could be. Let me ask for help in this area. Let me know that I have the experience, I have the sober experience that if I show up for something and I do something differently, I am going to get a different result. That's my experience. And then also just sort of getting out of myself. When I was really having a hard time in my marriage, someone said to me, you know how like when you're having a hard time and you start going to more meetings and you take commitments and things get better? And I was like, yes, I know, I'm doing all of that. And he was like, I am talking about your marriage. Get in the middle of your marriage, And so I took this very literally, and I took commitments in my marriage, secret commitments. I took the coffee commitment, and I took the greeter commitment. And the greeter commitment had to do with, always being off my phone when I came in the door, and, greeting, and also, saying goodnight and good morning, and then, making coffee. And then I gave up the treasurer commitment and the secretary commitment. Now I understand that this would be a more inspirational story if my marriage worked out. But but we're working with what we got. But it is what helps us to co-parent, because we are, no matter what, together forever through our son. And we've been able to both show up for that, for better or for worse, using the principles of this program. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for that. And I have a life that's beyond my wildest dreams, even though it's not exactly what I planned. And if I had gotten the plan that I wanted when I got here at 19, I would have sold myself so short. The things that I have now are an ability to have like a really sad moment today and then like do something different, and get a different result. And by the time I got up here to speak, I was in a different place, There's that saying like, this too shall pass, but I've also heard like, this too is passing. So if you're walking through a hard time, just know that like, there's nothing that a drink is going to make better. You don't have to do it alone. There are people here that will walk through anything with you if you reach out and let people know what's going on. But sometimes, and especially when we've been here for a long time and we have time, it's like that white picket fence where everything looks like it's okay. And people aren't going to be able to guess. And I sat suffering in sobriety with long-term sobriety for a long time. And it wasn't until I let a few people know what was going on that I was able to get to the solution and get to the other side. So I'm incredibly grateful that I got to be here tonight. And thank you so much for my sobriety.